And taking us through this topic is Rachel Wolfson, blockchain reporter, public speaker, and author, along with her panel, including Justin Sun, Trust Wallets, Eowyn, Chen, and Mastercard's Jorn Lambert. So let's give them a big round of applause.
Hi, everyone. Okay, great. Thank you all for joining us. Thanks again to Binance for having us here in beautiful Paris. I'm loving every minute. I know that we only have 30 minutes, so I'm just going to kind of dig into the panel and get started. So obviously, this panel is about Web3. We already have an established definition of what Web3 is. We often associate it with the likes of digital assets, NFTs, and the metaverse. However, there's more to Web3 than just that. So panelists, if you could kind of explain, what Web3 is aside from the obvious. And anybody can start. Justin, do you want to?
Okay. I believe Web3 is the future for web, basically. Eventually, everything will move to Web3. Even today, we might talk about Web3, some brand new idea we need to learn. But eventually, just like Web2, right? So eventually, everything move on to Facebook, Twitter. This is become the apps you are using every day. So I think Web3 is the same concept. Probably it's new for us today, but eventually it will be used by us every day. But I think at that time, we probably need to move to Web 4.
Yeah, I will add to what Justin said. People commonly know Web 1 as read-only, Web 2 as participate-only, or read and participate only, and Web 3 is execution, including ownership. And I personally see the previous 20 years of the internet involvement that achieves the freedom of information. However, it doesn't really allow the values of the information to transfer as freely as what we would like it to be. But Web3 is potentially with the technology of blockchain that have one of the highest chances to create that value transfer system as freely that goes along with the information. And that's what's exciting about Web3 to me.
Yeah, just very little to add other than, indeed, as Eowyn said, the value of ownership, or the internet of ownership, is a very profound thing. And we apply it to NFTs initially, but if you think about the world is really built on this notion of ownership. And as you project yourself to the future, every aspect of both B2B and B2C commerce will ultimately need to kind of find its way on Web3, and that's, I think, what we're collectively working towards.
Right. So now that we understand what Web3 is and how it will be utilized, let's talk about the tools that are needed to advance the space. So what kind of tools do we need to see a seamless Web3 future? Eowyn?
I'll probably jump in. When it comes down to ownership, we need to define what does ownership mean. I will go back to Web 2. So many of you probably have Apple Music or read your ebook on Kindle. Something I consider those digital goods tends to be the product that you lease, but the product that you don't own. Why? If you want to give the music to someone else or give your Kindle book to someone else, you don't transfer that very easily. It's not like your physical book, it's not like your CD that you actually have the full decision-making regarding how you wanted to access or use that product. And that's what Web 2 environment is like. But Web 3 enables that full ownership. It means you can fully access, you can fully own, and once you buy that book physically at your home, then no one is gonna take that away from you. And we want the same experiences for digital goods and assets going forward. And wallet, especially for us, non-custodial wallet, very much believing that everyone's ownership, data, digital assets will likely to be on the blockchain. And non-custodial wallet, our job to blockchain is like browser to internet. We enable the users to have one of the best experiences, one of the safest potential channels to be able to interact, engage, and exercise their agency on what they want to do with the assets. So I think a lot of people are appealed to that ideas. That's why they go decentralization. And some of the data that we got is we are the largest mobile wallet in the world. We have about 60 million downloads and 10 million active devices on a monthly basis. So even though we don't promote ourselves, our team is extremely small, like 30, 40 people. We're already seeing that we're able to create a product with a very lean team that can already empower a lot of the people to the space. But we hope it to be more seamless, so that's the next topic.
If I could just chime in to that as well. I mean, we talk about tools, but at the end of the day, we need this to scale, and I think scale is not just about a technical piece, right? Eowyn mentioned UX. I think there's a phrase at Mastercard where we say, if it doesn't scale, it doesn't matter, and I think it's very true for this space as well. We need to relentlessly focus on scale, and UX, together with trust, is what makes scale happen. That is true if you want to buy a t-shirt on the internet. That is true when you buy a cup of coffee. You need to trust the counterparty, you need to trust the asset, you need to trust the environment in which you are. And we have a long way to go, but I think the people are working on the right things for that to happen. And again, UX is extremely important within that. And you know, for all of those who have tried to buy an NFT on OpenSea, I mean, you really need to want it, right? It is really not that easy to do. So we have a real opportunity to make a difference here.
I think, first of all, for good UX experience for Web3, actually really costs like a lot of different front end, like back end work to accomplish this goal. So for TRON, for example, we basically, I think, focus on stablecoin, decentralized infrastructure to make sure when you transfer stablecoin, you will have seamless experience which are very cheap cost and with faster speed, right? So, but also in order to have basically a very user-friendly experience, we need to integrate with like Trust Wallet, right, on the wallet side. And then when you want to deposit money into centralized exchange like Binance, right? And then in the future, probably we need better payment infrastructure like Mastercard, right? So all of them, like all put together, you will have a very good Web3 experience. So that's why also we see some obstacles today. It's because all these parts is kind of like decentralized from one another. So we need like experience integrate them all together. So for example, like if you want to buy NFT OpenSea today, probably the first like hard thing to do is to get into blockchain first, right? You need to either like buy ETH or buy stablecoin, and then create wallet, deposit into it, and then buy NFT, right? And then after you buy it, it's very hard for you to store it, right? And also sell it. So that's why I think we still have lots of things we need to integrate here. I mean, I hope in the future we can open like any application, you can buy things just like with one click, right? But that's the future.
All of you make really good points. Justin, I think with a lot of the things you said, education is still required. So I want to know from all of you how you or your company plans to educate the mainstream and crypto natives on getting into Web3. Eowyn, do you want to?
So education is very important for us because we're usually at the first line of defense as people come into the Web3. Besides making the product easier to use, build better product, we also want to build in education in the product. I personally see people's Web3 experiences is like your gaming experiences. Every time you're trying a new game, you're going to get familiar with how you move your characters around, how you're going to shoot, how you're going to get things. And that is the kind of a curated experiences I think that we need to get people to have the first taste of the Web3. No matter that's to buy your first digital assets on chain, or this is how you're going to protect yourself on the security side. That is something that I hope that we can sort of gamify it and provide the level up experiences for users and prepare them to go to the Wild West of all the open Web3 innovations that they can navigate through. But besides that, there's only so much that the product can do. I do hope that the community, the society, all comes in together on educational effort. So we have about 2 million Twitter followers of communities. Then we constantly put out, here's your best practices for security, how to understand your responsibility when it comes with full ownership. And also, here are the new types of scams that you should be careful with so that we can always keep up to date. Something else that later on, I think communities can experiment different way to govern for better risk control, and then we can see across the board if there are any best practices that we can work with the public stakeholders to bake that into regulation so that it's more sustainable going forward. Those are just some initial thoughts that we have about how to have better education, safety for the space for the next 1 billion users to come.
So again, whatever Eowyn said, I can only agree with. I would also say, though, that all of the effort that's happening through the DAOs and to the education are useful, but at the end of the day, the product has to deliver for the consumer, because at the core of it is trust, right? And if you lose trust because of a scam or because of the technology falling over or because of the asset becoming worthless, no education in the world can help you. And I mean, to make an analogy with what we all know today, and which I've been spending quite a bunch of time on, which is credit card payments. There's scams all the time. We know that. But consumers know that they have recourse. They know that there is consumer protections there. And that's why it's okay to use it. We don't need to actually explain day in, day after, day out what they have to be on the lookout for. We do, and they are. But there's recourse and there is consumer protection. And we need to get to a point whereby we can provide the trust to the consumers alongside that education so that it sticks and people can go in it without having to look over their shoulder every step of the way.
Yes, I think education for like Web3 is really important. I can give you an example. USDT on TRON is like very popular these days, but some like scammers just create like a fake USDT and send to like even my friends, receive like fake USDT. Just like some people may scam by the fake Elon Musk on Twitter handle, right? Some of the users, they don't really understand, actually, for example, like Elon Musk, you need to verify by, the Twitter handle, like name Elon Musk. They just check the name is Elon Musk with Elon Musk's profile. They saw this is the real person. And for USDT on TRON is the same. So you need to check the smart contract addresses to make sure this is the USDT issued by Tether, which is the USDT company. So sometimes they will take for granted like the name USDT, but actually it's just like on Twitter, like everyone can name themselves like Elon Musk, right? And anyone can create like a USDT token. So that's like how she got scammed in the first place. But we really put lots of efforts on that. So we have browsers. So later we put all the verified badge for the token, right? So if this badge, we will check on the browser, name themselves like USDT, we'll take them down on browser. But still, I think this is a long process of like education and measurement we might take to fight scammers, because they will always try to, take advantage of like most of people don't understand like Web3, and they might take granted, right, for the name or easy for the scam.
Yeah. So, Jorn, you make a good point with credit cards, for instance, using that analogy, because we all know that there are credit card scams. And yes, there are scams in crypto and DeFi as well, but we have to educate people on that, and we don't have this assurance that there's going to be some sort of a backup that if we do get scammed, we'll get our assets back. So that in mind, how do we ensure that assurance in the Web3 space, because it's decentralized and because we don't want to take control from users? How can we ensure that there is protection from users that are essentially anonymous, I guess?
Yeah, I can start, and feel free to chime in. So the first thing, I mean, we spoke about OpenSea experience earlier on, and how challenging it is today to get ETH first and then to kind of buy the NFT. What we've done earlier this year is that we've set up arrangements with about 9 NFT marketplaces so that consumers can buy their NFT directly with their credit card. They don't have to go through the step of onboarding or uploading first ETH or USDC in order to then buy the NFT. They can do it in one go. And as they do so, the same consumer protections that apply when you buy a t-shirt actually apply when you buy the NFT as well. And that, I think, we should be pragmatic in this approach. We shouldn't throw away what exists. We should say, actually, in order for us to unleash the entire purchase power of the globe, we need to actually find these bridges. And so that is one, and we're obviously looking at on-ramp and off-ramp with players like Binance to make this kind of easier and to apply what we've learned over many years on how to protect consumers also on Web3. There's a long way to go, and actually, as we discussed before this panel, a crucial piece that Web3 needs to resolve is the question of identity, decentralized identity, and the ability to know who your counterpart is in any transaction. There's a ton of work happening there, and actually that is the key to not only bring much more scale to Web3, but then also apply appropriate consumer protections, appropriate safeguards for scammers, for terrorists, and what have you onto the web. In that sense, I'm really bullish about where this is going, and I think we need to find that pragmatic bridge from what we know today in the real world to it's not like Web3 is not the real world, but the next real world out there.
Okay, my turn. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think first of all, this is like a huge responsibility, right? So like every step we are talking about here is about real money, right? If people get like scammed, they're gonna lose their money instantly. So that's why I think even this is very hard, but some of alteration happen on UI and UX can easy to prevent those scam happen. For example, right now we apply like different kind of the warnings on the browsers. If we find out the token is kind of like similar with like USDC, USDT, or is like TRX in terms of name, or we got like user report on the token or on the smart contract, right? So we might like warning like everyone about the fake token or the scam contract on TRON blockchain. And also, same time, we have lots of followers on my Twitter and on our Twitter handle. We posted lots of education material to remind like user about like how to use DeFi application, smart contract in a safe way. And also, of course, I think we are building out like verify like smart contract system. So to make sure all the smart contract used by most of the people is get verified. I think which is also adopt like Etherscan, like other Web3 infrastructure. I think this is very important, and the user later they might realize like every smart contract they are interact with, they probably need to check, to make sure when they spend money, they spend in a right way.
Yeah, we're doing something similar. So we have two ideas how we can help the users in their work in progress. The first one is usually that you will send the money to the wrong address, or if that's a scammer's address. So on this part, we're working with Binance risk team. So Binance has one of the world's largest kind of the security databases, both for compliance reasons and also for the reported security reasons on hacker situation on chain. So we tap into the databases that we can help to check, are you actually sending the addresses to a potentially problematic address? If so, we'll give you a flag that I'm not controlling for you, that you can still send whatever your assets to that address, but at least I'm providing you the information that you can make decisions for yourself. Similarly with smart contract. So recently in the security of this space is that instead of just manual audits, let us use the power of AI and other technologies to do smart contract audit automatically. So that we're also working with some of these companies and how we can, as you're typing that smart contract, before you authorize to do anything with that smart contract, we can see that if there's anything potentially fishy, at least the capabilities flag you. It might not be 100% accurate because nothing is, but at least you get the information and then you can then dig in for yourself to make the best decisions. Something I also expect the space to do is just like any evolution of the social organizations. I don't like a very top-down approach that, in a Big Brother just determines this is how we do things going forward, because Big Brother is never having the perfect information to make the best decisions. So usually how the organization evolves or society evolves is that they first with the civil societies. So little villages, communities, they will figure a way out how they govern and protect themselves. So we see that in different chains. So TRON has a, BNB chain has a Avenger DAO. Some other chains also have that. So you see this kind of civil society, self-organized protection for their own environments popping up. And then we can see as the experiments goes, which one works better. And as I said that, we can set up the right regulatory environment that's constructive for innovation, at the same time protective enough for every players on the ground. That will be the equilibrium stage that we will be aiming for in a few years. But our industry is still young, that's why experiments are still everywhere.
Right, yeah, those are all good points. I also think it's interesting in terms of like, this is where we start, but is the space going to adopt concepts from traditional finance? So like, Jorn, maybe like insurance, like, our crypto exchange is going to be insured. Like, how can the mainstream understand that their assets are safe in a very mainstream way versus like, this is a DAO type infrastructure, if that makes sense?
Yeah, so it goes back to some of the concept that we talked about before, and user experience and trust is at the heart of it. I think the industry is making real steps, and what we discussed, kind of being able to flag suspicious addresses or being able to flag not great behaving wallets. There is technology for that. Several examples, and one of them you may have heard of is CipherTrace. I think that's good baby steps. I think a big leap will come from what I mentioned earlier, identity. You won't see mainstream financial services put a toe in Web3 until you really can identify, or you really can have assurances that the counterparty that you work with has been KYC'd, has been sanction screens, etc. Right? And that's where regulators are focusing on as well. That's where I think we need to go to, again, unleash the world's spending power onto this. But it's baby steps, and what I find extremely encouraging out there is that there's probably an entire room here, but an entire world out there of people innovating, of people finding applications. And what I would say, at the end of the day, commerce makes the world go round. And if you have an application and you're doing commerce, come to people like us. We are open for business to kind of figure out how do we actually instill both the user experience and the trust and the compliance in that environment so that we can tap into every person on the street, including my mother. Still some way from my mother, but hopefully we'll get there.
And I add to the decentralized identity piece. This is what we really are following and think could be really interesting. In recent news also came out that Binance launched the BAB, which essentially kind of verifies and gives people a verification that you're KYC to Binance users. And Binance have tens of hundreds of millions of the users now that pass through the KYC to be verified. I think a lot of the centralized exchanges who are leveraging this potential technology are going to be industry infrastructures that help the Web3 space to have some level of trust, but still protects the privacy. I don't need to access all the information of who you are in order to do business with you. Sometimes I just need to check certain boxes to have the level of the trust that I need to exercise that particular transaction. And I think the decentralized identity plus the ZK technology, which enables privacy on-chain but still compliance checkable, is going to be what all stakeholders in society, including the users, the governments, the business corporations, all feel comfortable about doing interactions with each other. And that is something that we do hope that we are at the forefront to enable the industry to make the bridge so that users and the business and the projects can all enjoy this potential verified, safe, yet still private environment.
Yes, I do think there's lots of things we can learn from traditional financial institution, because all the financial institution has been run for like 100 years or something. I think they have a very thorough due diligence process, internal risk control process, and measurements. For most of the, I think, blockchain founders today, even myself, I think I have started my company for almost 10 years now, but still it's a very relevant short period of time compared to all the financial institutions. So that's why recently, even when our company doing interview, actually I prefer those candidates with a very long-term career in financial institution. I think they can really bring lots of new way of thinking for us. Even, I think one of the biggest weakness for our industry is most of the founders in the blockchain industry all graduate from computer science or from web business. And most of them have no idea what's financial internal control, or they have no idea about risk control. But the business they are doing is financial related, which is kind of very different from the web business we have done before. For example, when I doing panel 3 years ago, I just wear t-shirts with slippers, right? and these days I changed to suits because I believe this is also represents some kind of the responsibility here,
I actually the other way around. I used to have a tie, and now I want to be part of the cool kids.
Justin, that's such a great comment. I just love that. It shows how the industry has matured. Wait, were you gonna finish on?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
So that's why I even changed my outfit, right? In the first place, I think there's still lots of things we need to learn from traditional financial institution, and here we just want to make the user experience better. But I think with the help of AI, database, we want to guarantee the safety of everyone's assets.
Right. We have a few more minutes, so just very quickly, what do all of you think the future of Web3 looks like or may look like moving forward? Eowyn.
Yeah, I kind of talk about it. I do envision a future where everyone have the full ownership of their own digital footprints, of their own data, the value that creates, and be able to get the upsides in that environment. I think that is what's the most revolutionary about this space, is this technology can bring in a new type of social economic relationship amongst organizations, individuals, and the public stakeholders. And to do that, we need that privacy, we need the security, and we need the ease of the use. And I'm looking forward to the next 5 to 10 years and how we get to that better place.
Yeah, look, if you look at blockchain economy today, 95%, 95% is people buying and selling crypto assets as investment vehicles. That doesn't use the enormous potential of programmability or of eliminating counterparty risk through multi-token ledgers. We do nothing of that yet because of the points that Eowyn mentioned. The future to me is unleashing all that, and then the buy, sell, hold, the investment will be 5% of what Web3 does, or even less. And a lot of energy goes on the 95%, which is really not that disruptive in itself. We need to get after the next 5%, and it is what Eowyn says. It's about identity while keeping privacy, and that will unlock the incredible potential.
Yes, for me, I think I have been working in the blockchain industry for quite a long time. I hope in the future we can keep the decentralization, and at the same time we will provide like a safer place for everyone to use blockchain.
Okay, thank you everyone. Thanks Binance, thanks CZ, thanks everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.